Hello everyone, this video will cover Module 4. So Module 4 is the first of 4 modules where you will be writing a short story. So you're writing one short story per module. You have been introduced to the short stories already. That was part of the short story collection in the previous module. You did some elements practice as well. And so now what you're going to be doing is actually writing the first story. So all of these modules will be open roughly at the same time. And your task will be to kind of decide which one you want to start working on first. I have them in a specific order for a reason. But some students decide not to go in that order, and that's fine. The main reason I have them in this order is just because I feel like they're in the order of difficulty. So the first one, the point of view story, the options for the story itself are a little bit more limited, whereas the other ones are open and you can kind of write about whatever plot you want. This one is a little bit more limited. So for students, particularly students who have not written a lot of fiction before, this is really helpful to start with. So let me show you what's in the module. All of the modules will look very similar. I know an overview and to-do list, and then there might be some readings in there, and then I usually have these learning about pages as well, which gives you just some more information, sometimes including chapters per page numbers from the chapter, where you can go back and look from what you read for the quiz, and then the story assignment itself, and then the spot to actually turn in the story assignment, and then your self-assessment quiz, which is a part of the entire module. The self-assessment quiz questions will ask you about whether or not you viewed all of the pages and that kind of thing. So all of these resources are in here for a reason, and I expect you to be looking at them and using them. Some of it will be information you know already, and some of it will be completely new, and so that's why they're all in there. You should be reviewing everything that I put in here. I also have a couple of short story readings just to get us started. There are a couple of really good examples. There are a ton of examples in the textbook, but these are the two in particular that I want you to read. And again, part of the assessment quiz. There's more information about point of view because that is what this specific short story is focusing on. That's kind of the main criteria that I want you to meet, which is to write in that first person point of view. And then the assignment is right here. So just as a reminder for this assignment, your task is to choose a well-known story. Usually students, the best options are ones where there is a clear good guy and bad guy, and they are writing from the bad guy perspective, trying to justify the bad guy's actions. You can use any version of the story that you want to. So if you wanted to, like Cinderella, there's a whole bunch of different versions of that story. So if you wanted to use the Disney movie version versus the original Brothers Grimm version, doesn't really matter. The main thing that you're doing is justifying the bad guy's actions and their motivations, and tell the story completely. That is one thing that I notice in student writing when they're writing short stories. This one tends to be a little bit tricky just because of the nature of the assignment, but the students just don't write the whole story. They just sort of cut it off. Either that, I don't know if they give up, or like, oh, I met 500 words, and then they just stop writing or something. But we need the whole story. We need what happens. And for this one in particular, if you have a bad guy who dies at the end of the story, you have to kind of decide whether you're going to cut it off like right before they go to the place. If you're doing Snow White, you know, the evil queen falls off struck by lightning or something, and falls off the cliff. Maybe it's right before she goes up there, and that's kind of the end of the story. Or you actually like have to describe, you know, and the world goes black or something like that, and try to figure out what to do with that character. So that can be a little bit of a challenge. If you have questions about that, you're welcome to email me. And then the other thing though is making sure that you have the beginning, the middle, and the ending of the entire plot. So it's not just like a rambling monologue. It needs to have a story to it, but it is first person perspective. So depending on your bad guy, you may have what we call an unreliable narrator. So I've had a couple of students do the Joker from Batman, and that one is a good one to explore, that unreliable narrator, because you can never quite tell whether he is fully in his right mind. He's obviously a pretty insane character to begin with, and depending on which version you are being inspired by, in the movies, in the comic books, he can be like completely unhinged or just kind of slightly unhinged. So you kind of get to decide how your narrator is going to act and talk. So, but we do need the full story, though. We need some context in there and that kind of thing, as he's telling the story. So make the action happen. If you choose a character that is in multiple different versions of stories, so the Joker's a good example. There's just so many Batman stories. Really, just, I mean, you don't even have to pick one that exists. But you can just put them in a scenario where the Joker is fighting Batman, and we just go through that story arc. But we need to have that justification of his actions as you go. So the spot to turn in the story is then next, and that's where you'll start your assignment and submit it. And these are just reminders for what to include. And then when you do the self-assessment quiz, that is how you will score your own story and the work that you did in Module 4. And then, of course, the journal's in there. I've had a couple of questions about this. Yes, you can keep uploading files. So if you just do each entry as its own file, that's fine. You can just go, it won't say start assignment, it'll say like new attempt or something, and you go back, you can submit a new file. It's not a big deal. I can see all of the files that you upload. So if you have any questions, send me an email. Otherwise, I hope you have a great week.